Aliens. Have they arrived? Are they dangerous? Did they create the legend of Merlin the Wizard?
Merlin was actually an extraterrestrial being.
Aliens have done something to us. Like, few concepts have influenced our culture, our science, and even the way we think to the same extent, for better or worse.
Bigfoot has been seen coming out of some UFO flying saucer craft.
There is an ancient and elusive undercurrent of alien legends affecting society, a phenomenon somehow stranger than any conspiracy theory, and Merlin is, in fact, kind of a part of it. The history of aliens is so out there that to begin, let's just clear our minds and picture an extraterrestrial. Maybe it's green, maybe it's gray, but chances are it's got a big round head, big eyes, maybe some antennae, you know? Okay, so who is this guy living in our collective unconscious? The tale of the default alien and its strangely vast cultural influence is one you'd assume begins in like the 1950s or 60s, but no. It begins 1,888-ish years ago in a story written in ancient Greek by satirist Lucian of Samosata. Okay, strap in for this one. So Lucian's narrative imagines life on the moon, which includes giant vulture dragons with multiple heads, archers that ride flies, the size of 12 elephants, and of course the local moon people, who look a lot like humans, but with bulbous helmets, made of beans. Yes, I said beans. Also, instead of spears, spacemen wield asparagus stalks, and their shields are just standard Greek pattern shields. Wait, I love that. This is the first depiction of humanoid extraterrestrials, arguably ever. And while it's tempting to think that Lucian received a vision from beyond, or was just hitting the fig wine a little too hard, the guy outright says his moon adventure is just a bunch of lies written to be as absurd as possible, the 2nd century equivalent of a troll post. But reportedly, some Roman readers assumed it was true, a mix-up that probably won't be a reoccurring theme as we continue. For now, looking down the long arc of history, are the big-headed default aliens of modern culture the descendants of Lucian's bean-helmeted boys? Yeah, I wish I had a better answer than that, but it's genuinely hard to say. Stories featuring aliens crop up very rarely across the next 1,000+ years. That's actually not because extraterrestrials were unfathomable to ancient humans. The Greek philosopher Epicurus argued that if the heavens contained many worlds, it stood to reason that some might have life of their own. To which Aristotle and Plato said, "That's stupid, you're stupid, that theory sucks, we hate you." They likely didn't say that to Epicurus's face because, well, he hadn't been born yet, but that was genuinely their opinion. In short, the debate over extraterrestrial life is really old. The difference is that today, aliens existing doesn't seem so far-fetched. Like, whether or not little green dudes have actually rolled up on Earth is one thing, but whether there are aliens period, somewhere, I mean shoot, the universe is a big place. But we know that now. Back in the day, the very idea that the cosmos was vast and not just like a shallow dome with some funky lights was its own point of heated debate. Mired in implausibility, extraterrestrials were mentioned, but not a mainstream concept through much of human history. But paradoxical as it might sound, UFOs themselves kind of were? Imagine you're living in feudal Europe. You just had some grain, your back hurts and will probably hurt forever. Then you look up at the sky and see this. A modern panicked assumption might be, that's gotta be an alien. But during the Middle Ages, people interpreted such sightings as cosmic beings, celestial omens, or even ships flying in the heavens, just not ones crewed by extraterrestrials. Indeed, art from the medieval period often depicted the sky as chock full of mysterious floating marvels, unidentified flying objects, yet with no alien association. Today, we know the halo phenomenon is a mock sun, an illusion caused by ice crystals in the atmosphere, but I certainly understand the confusion, and why people who studied the stars were basically considered wizards. This includes some of the Celtic figures that may have inspired Merlin. I'm not saying Merlin was an alien, we'll get to that, but it is fascinating how space offered our ancestors a lot of freaky shit to inspire UFO-esque legends. This is footage of a bolide, a terrifying kind of hyper-bright meteor that's rare, but like, not that rare, especially if you're spending most of your life outside. And unsurprisingly, bolide sightings do historically coincide with ancient tales of celestial oddities, as do other cosmic phenomenon. Unidentified things in the sky seem to be an inherent human interest. Long before the word alien became a common refrain, cultures were fascinated with and influenced by the strange things passing overhead. Okay, but listen. What if it was aliens? I'm not saying it was aliens, because medieval UFO sightings have been painstakingly mapped to documented atmospheric phenomena, but what if it were aliens anyway? I think no matter the data presented, at least a part of our brains might kinda hope aliens were involved, because, well, aliens are cool. The top 5 highest grossing films of all time feature aliens, and then there's one about a boat. I guess those are the peaks of human interest. Aliens and boats. And look, some Middle Ages accounts, like one of a great sky battle between 2 flying ships above the Baltic Sea, do kind of get one's X-Files conspiracy senses tingling. Sure, people from this period didn't think they were dealing with aliens, but what did they know? They didn't even have indoor plumbing. With our contemporary extraterrestrial imagery, it's understandable we're poised to hear phrases like ships battling in the sky and picture something right out of a sci-fi movie. But the ships in question apparently looked like this. Look, I think regardless of where one falls on the alien debate, any medieval manuscripts featuring accounts that could be construed as alien-related also has stuff that, lessens their credibility as historical texts, shall we say. But to some, that's quitter's talk. To some, evidence of aliens is literally everywhere.
Is it possible that Merlin had an advanced extraterrestrial technology?
So we've reached that part of the video. The part where I pull the rug and reveal that in order to fully understand aliens' cultural influence, we also need to understand ancient aliens' cultural influence, the TV show.
Could George Washington really have had an extraterrestrial visitation at Valley Forge?
I promise this is important. While it may have come out of the early 2010s, this show, in my opinion, continues to be a uniquely illuminating example of how some people tend to think about aliens in the context of history.
Leonardo da Vinci may have obtained his incredible creative and scientific knowledge as the direct result of an extraterrestrial encounter.
Hoo boy. So, Ancient Aliens knows that aliens are cool. It also knows that what's more fun than trying to painstakingly trace how cultural models of extraterrestrials have shifted over time is saying that actual aliens are behind literally everything in history or mythology. Take Kronos eating and then throwing up his godly children. A pretty straightforward moment from classic Greek myth. Or is it?
Gods being vomited up from the belly of their father actually describes mutinous aliens being expelled from the mothership.
I mean, wow. And look, I can't hide from the truth. I've been binging this show non-stop lately, because treated as science fiction, which is how the network categorizes it, Ancient Aliens is absolutely hilarious.
Some of the extraterrestrials, they had sex with wonderful earthly females, women. They were not allowed to do this.
Now I love a good science fiction story. I also love mythology, but implying that aliens are the origin point of all ancient narratives assumes ancient cultures had no imagination or creativity. The ancient alien TV theorists claim the bird deity Garuda described in the Mahabharata was actually an extraterrestrial airplane. How do they know this? Because Garuda liked to eat snakes.
Now compare an airplane at the airport today hooked up to a fuel line. Isn't that airplane eating a snake?
The fact that wild birds eat snakes, that doesn't matter. Alien airplanes are neat, that's what matters. And yeah, they are neat. Getting back to regular history a bit, the concept of spaceships and extraterrestrials would eventually strike our culture like the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, an event Ancient Aliens also blames on extraterrestrials, by the way. Outside of a few moon-based exceptions, sustained alien fever wouldn't truly break until 1859, with a funky little pamphlet published by a funky little man. In the second half of the 19th century, a lot of interesting things were happening all at once. Beyond rumblings of a new horseless carriage and mouthless speaky box, an interest in space was on the rise thanks to better telescopes, better star charts, and a new theory of life hot off the presses from one Charles Darwin. Seriously, though rarely credited as such, Darwin's origin of a species was seemingly foundational to igniting public interest in the possibility of aliens. Years later, writer H.G. Wells would directly credit the theory as inspiring his hugely influential War of the Worlds. But even before that novel's release, Wells and others were publishing widely read articles speculating about life on other planets based on Darwin's theories. Though it was a few thousand years too late to apologize to Epicurus, all of a sudden it seemed to a growing number of people that space might not be an empty backdrop, but a populated cosmos worth exploring. And the burgeoning speculation surrounding extraterrestrials all coalesced around a certain orange rock.
The people of Mars probably walk on their hind legs, their trunk-like noses indispensable for feats of engineering.
Mars was the cool kid on the block when it came to later 19th and early 20th century theories on alien life. If you've ever wondered why the stereotype for aliens seems to be Martians, it all started here, with the writings of scientists like Percival Lowell, who published a widely read account of what he believed to be canals on Mars's surface. What turned out to be an optical illusion caused by streaks of dust ignited fascination that there could be life just one rock over from Earth. The public was ready to believe. In fact, some had started to claim alien crafts were here already. Not in the form of flying saucers just yet, but in cigar-shaped airships similar to the Zeppelins of the era, just with more lights. And this fascination would at last explode into fervor when Wells finally released his Martian invasion epic War of the Worlds, a tale of a one-sided war from which the modern cultural alien would truly be born, a symbol not only of cosmic possibilities, but fears of invasion.
Through the years, there have been frequent rumors that Martians disguised as Earthmen walk amongst us.
Depictions of aliens became less hopeful and increasingly adversarial as the 20th century progressed. While extraterrestrials would thrive in the emerging genres of film and television, they were almost exclusively cast as villains. They were, and I use this term very deliberately, movie monsters. I've talked at length about how monsters often represent dominant fears within a culture, fears of nature, of the other, etc. So aliens being the big-shot cinematic monsters of the mid-20th century is very telling. See, when War of the Worlds first came out in 1897, some 19th century critics just didn't buy the idea that a nation like Britain could be occupied by an invading force, even one with weapons from outer space. Then World War I happened, and World War II happened, and the atomic bomb was dropped. And suddenly, the idea of a militaristic technological power leveling the mightiest nations in the world seemed terrifyingly plausible. Aliens definitely embodied fears of total war, atomic annihilation, and, as the Cold War heated up, infiltration paranoia. The first major reports of flying saucers spread across the United States during this period, alleged spy vessels that some blamed on other nations and some blamed on the Martians, but in both cases, the modern notion of a UFO conspiracy was taking root. Weird things in the sky were no longer uncrewed novelties. In the post-war era, there was a certainty there must be some sinister and conscious force behind them. Nowhere is this arc towards menacing conspiracy regarding extraterrestrials more apparent than in how people reacted to Cold War alien sightings compared to past decades. For example, in the early 19th century, a newspaper claimed that life had been discovered on the moon thanks to a newfangled type of telescope. Life that included flocks of hairy humanoids, one-horned buffalo, and also unicorns. Just straight up unicorns. Unsurprisingly, this article was a fabrication, but again, a lot of people bought into it. However, people believed the story with a certain amount of levity. There wasn't a sense these moon men would soon invade Earth, it was just a wacky discovery. In contrast, reports on alien sightings in the Cold War era were marked with a distinct menace. If aliens were watching us, it was decidedly not a good thing.
Fire! Port side rockets.
That's not to say extraterrestrials remained solely monstrous throughout the 20th century. During the late 60s and 70s, in some contexts, aliens once again came to represent the promise of scientific discovery, dovetailing with advancements in space exploration.
Today, a space-conscious public avidly consumes tons of story material about life on other planets.
The first probe that landed on Mars had the primary mission of searching for alien life, and while it didn't find any, the fact this goal was first priority proves the enduring impact of our hopes for extraterrestrials. I don't think it's hyperbolic to say the possibility of alien life has changed science, changed the way we look at the cosmos, and the kinds of discoveries we place value in. We want to find aliens, we want to believe. And yet, running parallel to the surge of interstellar optimism, a new form of dark extraterrestrial narrative was emerging. Accounts of alien abductions date as far back as the 1950s, but while most early abductees described a pleasant, dreamlike experience, that started to change, beginning with the widely publicized account of Barney and Betty Hill, a US couple who said they were abducted by gray-skinned aliens, a description that was widely circulated and helped establish the default alien of the popular subconscious. Now, I don't think you can call this the origin of the default alien. Similar-looking, big-headed, gray-skinned extraterrestrials existed in pop culture previously, but this account definitely codified the Greys, as they're now commonly referred to, inspiring everything from Close Encounters of the Third Kind to, well, Ultraman. Now, many individuals, including the likes of Carl Sagan, have pointed out discrepancies in the Hills' accounts, how they sometimes describe the Greys as wearing hats or having long dark hair and blue lips, but okay, I feel somewhat uncomfortable going through and callously debunking the experience of the Hills and the many others who would follow. Regardless of whether or not there were actual aliens involved, research has shown some kind of real psychologically distressing experience often underpins these sorts of accounts, so it would be exploitative to dunk on these narratives. What's important is that by the 1990s, thousands of people were coming forward with similar stories, inspiring major TV shows like The X-Files, with abduction narratives defining themselves as the dominant extraterrestrial model of the era. And then they kind of stopped. Reports of alien abductions have been on a curious yet measurable decline throughout the 21st century. Like, aliens are arguably bigger than ever, at least from a pop culture standpoint. But there's definitely been a shift away from ominous tales of late-night vanishings, and I almost feel like we're transitioning back into wide-eyed wonder at the curious things in the sky, although there's plenty of anxiety too. But this is a familiar trend. Throughout each era, extraterrestrials have continued to influence us. Their impact on culture, media, and even the way we think about the cosmos remains profound. Whether there are really Martians puttering around up there or not, looking back on history, I think aliens offer humanity a system of meaning, if you will. The very language we use to discuss the possibility of extraterrestrials is subtly revealing. With the X-Files refrain of "I want to believe," want is a very appropriate word. It implies desire, excitement, even when twinged with fear. Aliens are cool. I've said that a lot in this video, but it bears repeating. Even if they end up being scary, I think a lot of people want extraterrestrials to be real. I might be one of those people. A big public first contact with aliens might go really south, but can you imagine how flippin' sick it would be? In the end, perhaps what's most notable about aliens is the psychological comfort that they offer. When we ask, "Are we alone?" this too is a phrase with illuminating framing, because we're obviously not alone. There's 8 billion other people on this planet, and countless more animal species whose intricacies we're still learning to uncover, but they, on some level, don't count. They do not alleviate the mental toll that we may be a very lonely rock in a very indifferent cosmos. We want to believe. There is an almost spiritual relief in believing that when we look up at the stars, someone is looking back. And if there is someone, looking back, even if they're too far away to have seen us just yet. I hope that when they do see us, they see us at our best. I hope they know how much the idea of them, the faintest possibility, has shaped us, pushed us further. And I hope their helmets are made of something other than beans, because I still can't totally picture what that would look like, but the idea makes me feel a little sick. No beans would definitely be ideal. So I have a lingering question for you, a question that's been haunting me every step of making this video. If aliens ever made first contact, what's the best way to stop Earth from exploding? Because if an interstellar species wanted to level our planet, they probably could. But is there a way we could convince them otherwise? Some scientifically proven method to communicate with the non-human, or to demonstrate Earth's unique value? I love these sorts of hypotheticals, which is why I turned this one into a complete second video, available right now exclusively on Nebula. You may have heard that this isn't the only video of mine up on Nebula, and it's true. I also made one on the utterly wild history of the humans riding dragons myth, one on what animal species is most likely to take over Earth in humanity's wake, one on the power of post-apocalyptic worlds, and many others. I'm always adding to the library these days. And by using my link on screen or in the description, you can get a full 40% off a year's subscription to Nebula. That's just $3 a month for all my exclusives and all my regular videos 24 hours early and ad-free, which, as I've mentioned before, is the perfect way to watch my recent hour-long documentary on Monster Hunter Wilds, which I'm very proud of. But I'm far from the only piece of the Nebula pie. Hundreds of your other favorite creators are also on Nebula, dropping their own bonus and early videos. Tale Foundry is releasing videos like a week early alongside exclusives. Tierzoo is too, and has this whole secret Let's Play channel. Jetlag is constantly releasing new episodes. There's a lot to choose from. And by signing up for Nebula, you're giving me the ability to keep releasing videos right here. There is no better way to support Curious Archive, and to support tons of other hardworking creators. Also, once you've finished watching my video on how to survive first contact, and spoiler alert, it is more to do with trees than you might expect, I'd recommend checking out Lindsay Ellis's new stuff. She's back on Nebula and is cooking so hard with these 40-minute long deep dives she's gonna burn the house down. And, as I always like to remind people, if you'd like to share these videos with friends or family or co-workers, I mean probably not your co-workers, every Nebula subscriber gets free week-long Nebula guest passes so that people you invite can watch literally whatever they want. So that's Nebula, 40% off using my link on screen or in the description to get exclusive videos, ad-free videos, videos 24 hours early, videos from other people. Basically, there's a lot of videos. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this entry, please lend your support by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification icon to stay up to date on all things curious. See you in the next video.